right, hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about electric collars, but not the way you usually hear about them. If anyone finds issues, isn't the tool itself. It's that most of the conversation is built on assumptions and ideology instead of understanding. So before I talk about using the electric collar, let's get clear on what this actually is and how learning happens. This is not a shock device in the dangerous way people imagine. It is a low current pulse stimulation device designed to create sensation, not damage. What makes electricity typically dangerous is high current, long duration, and the path that goes through your body. Electric collars use extremely low current, very short pulses, and a localized effect. That's why we have these two probes here. That's where electricity travels. And that's really why I can put it on myself and nothing catastrophic happens. It's not because I'm tough, but because the collars are engineered to work that way. Is it aversive? Yes, it is. It creates a sensation the dog or I would rather avoid. And that's actually the entire point, to create a clear, felt consequence. If there is no clear consequence, there is no reliable information to the dog to learn from. So, people hear the word aversives and immediately jump to pain, fear, intimidation, and damaged relationships. Those are not the same thing. What actually matters here is it predictable? Is it tied directly to a behavior? And can the dog avoid it? When those three things are true, it stops being scary and becomes understanding. So let me show you how it works. As I said, I will do it on myself. First, I'm going to turn the collar on. You can see this green light here. When I press on the remote control, you will hear a beeping sound. This is because I have attached a sound box. So anytime I press it, you will hear that it's working. On top of that, you will see the light flashing green here. When you hear this, let me turn it on. Okay, that means that the collar is on. It goes beep, 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 beep. It doesn't mean that I'm pressing it this way. It just is, if I'm holding it for a long time, it goes beep, 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 beep. If I make a short one, most likely it's gonna do two, beep, beep. Okay? So, let's do this. We're gonna go to level 1. See, when I do it so quickly, I don't necessarily even feel it. But if I keep it longer, I can feel some kind of light sensation. Many people explain it as tickling. I don't think it's tickling, it's just some light sensation. You definitely feel something there, right? But as you can see, there is no big reaction from me. Why? Because that's the lowest level. Now, if I go a little higher, this is a little sharper. This is more defined. I definitely know that I'm feeling something, okay? I also know that most likely the very next level that I'm gonna dial, I'm not gonna like it. I will definitely try to avoid it if possible. So let's see what happens. Yeah, this is definitely, it's uncomfortable, but I'm still in control. Now, if I go one more level up, and I am about to do something, or I'm doing something, if this now comes on, I will most likely stop doing whatever I was doing. And I will associate this with, okay, that's a bad idea. Whatever I'm doing, I will not do it. Why? Because I'm in control. Because the moment I stop, the sensation stops as well. Now, when I understand that my behavior turns this on and my behavior turns it off, now I have something powerful. A consequence I can predict, I can also control, and most importantly, I can completely avoid by just not getting in trouble. So that's where real learning happens. If I hold the stimulation, I don't like it. So I will change my behavior. The moment I change my behavior, it stops. That's basically the mechanism. That's how it works. It's clear, it's immediate, and it's avoidable. I know some people that are against electric collars will call this fear. But actually, it depends on what happens next. If it's unclear, if it's unpredictable, or if it's unescapable, yes, that's going to create fear and stress and all sorts of bad things. However, when it's contingent and avoidable, it becomes information and control. I'm gonna give you an example with the hot stove, maybe a little bit of a different twist of the analogy, but think of a child. We can verbally tell the kid, don't touch it, it's hot, it will burn you, it's gonna hurt. Language let us shortcut the lesson because humans can be instructed this way. Dogs, on the other hand, don't understand such explanation. They learn through direct consequence. What happens when I do the behavior, right? So endlessly redirecting them to do something else so they can get another reward doesn't address the most important part of the lesson, which is touching a hot stove can harm you, so don't mess with it. Redirection only teaches them to choose the reward instead. However, they may still be tempted or impulsive around the stove, which is going to be a bad idea. Touching the hot stove teaches real avoidance, that is contingent on the direct interaction combined with the consequence tied to that action. This is quite simple. Once the dog understands it, it doesn't live in fear of the stove. It simply knows and avoids it. That's really why no one is ever afraid to go into the kitchen when the stove is on. Because there is clarity, it's contingent. And that's not trauma, that's learning. So the same principle applies to the electric collar. The consequence is immediate, it's predictable, it's controllable, and ultimately, it's completely avoidable. The dog doesn't have to stay in fear. Instead, it gains clarity. You can think about driving a car. You don't control it just by steering towards where you want to go. You also need brakes sometimes. Not because you, plan to crash, but because something sudden happens. You need a way to interrupt the motion immediately and effectively. Training is not that different. Reinforcement tells the dog where to go, but when the dog is already committed into something inappropriate, when instinct, for example, takes over, you need a clear way to say, stop. this matters. At the most basic level, all animals move toward what works and away from what doesn't. Reinforcement pulls behavior forward. Aversive consequence defines what needs to stop. And when both are clear, that's when the behaviors become stable. Now, calm down. I'm not saying that reinforcement doesn't work. Of course it does. However, sometimes some dogs want something more. Instinct or the environment becomes stronger than your reward. And yes, desensitization and counter-conditioning have value. They work great when the dog is under threshold and thinking. But when the dog is already committed, you're no longer competing with your treat. You're competing with reality at this moment. And those moments, many approaches here will shift to management. Constantly being on leash, staying behind fences, basically doing whatever possible to avoid triggers. And that's all good if restriction is your goal. But if you want reliability with freedom, the dog needs to understand consequences in the moment. Does every dog need electric collar? No. Some dogs are easier. Some behaviors are milder. But for us to pretend that no dog under no conditions would benefit from clear consequences, that's where that logic breaks. Without a doubt, not all dogs are the same. Their drives are not the same. The motivation is not the same. The past history is not the same. The situations are not the same. I can go on and on. The electric collar is simply one precise way to deliver that consequence under different circumstances, but not as a random punishment, but as a contingent information the dog can feel, can understand, and avoid. The goal is not to keep using the tool. The goal is for the dog to understand so clearly that you barely need it anymore. At the end of the day, this isn't really about electric collars. It's about one simple question. How does the dog learn when it matters most? When instinct takes over and the environment is winning. That's the conversation we should actually be having. Now, so far I've just demonstrated one place where electric collar can be very useful. There are many other applications, but no point to make this video more complicated, maybe for another time. Let me know in the comments, and if you feel that you are willing to debate in a civil manner, I will gladly invite you and have a conversation, and we can talk further about it. Okay, hopefully for everybody else that is curious about what this is, why it's being used, and why some dog trainers really want to keep it as a valuable tool, hopefully that video gave you a little glimpse of the benefits of electric collar. Take care.